They didn't just laugh when you lost. They erupted. They danced on the ashes of your dreams like children at a festival. Not a moment of pause, not a flicker of remorse. Your pain was entertainment. Your silence, the punchline. And the world, it applauded. You weren't buried in dirt. You were drowned in mockery. They didn't throw flowers. They threw stones laced with laughter. Every joke they cracked carved another grave inside you. Where were they when you bled behind closed doors? Where were their cheers when you clawed through nights with no sleep, no help, no hope? Do they even remember the sound of your silence? Or did they only learn your name the moment it became a meme? You begged, you broke, you bled, and still they laughed. Not because you were weak, but because they were. Because your fall made them feel taller. Because pain, when it's not theirs, is just content. You screamed beneath the soil of their indifference, but silence has a strange echo. It remembers. No applause, no mercy, no memory. Only fake smiles wearing human masks. Only hollow voices saying, "Stay strong," as they pushed you deeper into the dark. They said you were too sensitive, too ambitious, too much. They called your hunger delusion, your discipline obsession, your vision insanity. But when kings fall, fools feast. And when warriors bleed, cowards laugh. They didn't just ignore you, they erased you. You were the ghost in their hallways, the echo in their corridors, unseen, unheard, unwanted. But ghosts don't stay silent forever, and echoes, they always return. Is failure funny? Until it learns to fight back. Because now the soil that once held your corpse is trembling. The ground remembers the weight of what it buried. The storm remembers the name it once silenced. They laughed, they pointed, they vanished. But you stayed. You stayed in the shadows. You studied the silence. You sharpened your rage on the bones of their jokes. And now the one they erased is carving his name into their nightmares. Not with ink, but with fire. You thought the pain would kill you, but it didn't. It crafted you, bent you, broke you, rebuilt you. You became the fire they tried to extinguish. And when they left you to rot in silence, you didn't fade. You forged. In the silence they left you in, thunder was born. No applause, no sympathy, just the crackling sound of your soul, catching flame. They thought they buried you, but they didn't know what grows in ash. They didn't know that graves grow monsters, and monsters remember. You screamed without sound, you shattered without noise, you burned without light, but you burned. And somewhere between pain and patience, you heard it, the voice they tried to kill, your own. What if the loss was never your defeat, but your weapon? What if every betrayal was just another match, lighting the fuse of your rebirth? You didn't fall, you were thrown, but you landed like metal in the forge. And the heat, it didn't melt you, it molded you. You learned, you endured, you ignited. They thought your silence meant surrender. It meant calculation. They thought you vanished. You were evolving, not forgiven, not forgotten, not finished. You turned broken ribs into blades. You carved every insult into armor, and every scar they left became scripture. A scripture written in fire and fury, They buried you in ashes, forgetting that's where phoenixes rise. But you're no phoenix. You're not reborn to be beautiful. You're reborn to be brutal. What do you call a grave that grows thorns and screams back? You call it a warning. Let them regret. Let them run. Let them remember. Because what they buried was not a mistake. It was a prophecy. A storm isn't born in the sky. It's born in silence. It's born in pain. It's born in you. And now that fire is awake, now that furnace is open, and the world has no idea what it forged, you walk like thunder now, and their smiles, they crumble like paper beneath your boots. They used to laugh, now they look away. They used to whisper your name in mockery, now they choke on it in fear. You don't knock, you strike, like midnight lightning tearing through a cathedral on fire. No warning, no mercy, no forgiveness. You are not the child they dismissed. You are not the silence they ignored. You are the shadow they can't outrun, the storm they can't predict, the reckoning they never prepared for. You show up without sound and leave behind silence loud enough to haunt their bones. The same halls they mocked you in echo now, because silence follows power, and you don't speak to be heard. You speak to be obeyed. Is this what they feared? That the one they laughed at would rewrite their fate? That the broken figure limping through the dark wasn't dying? He was training. You don't need applause. You demand silence. You don't crave validation. You carry vengeance, not in your hands, in your presence. You're not their friend. You're their reckoning. You're not the sequel. You're the judgment. They built their egos from your agony. Now you wear their guilt like armor, and every step you take breaks their illusion of control. You see it in their eyes now. That panic, that cold realization, that shiver of regret crawling up their spines every time you enter the room. What happens when the joke becomes the judge? What happens when the ghost they created learns how to haunt with purpose? You don't need to scream. You exist, and that's enough to shake their pillars. Why do they flinch at the very name they used to mock? Because power doesn't announce itself. It arrives, draped in silence, wearing the scars of everything they thought would kill it. You don't walk in like a man. You arrive like a curse they whispered too often. They feared your loss. Now they fear your footsteps. They prayed for your end. Now they pray when you arrive. They didn't think you'd make it, and that's why you did. Because monsters aren't born in light. They're forged in the dark, baptized in betrayal, and unleashed with purpose. And now you're not here to be seen. You're here to be felt. You didn't return. You ascended. And when you did, you didn't knock. You didn't explain. You reigned. Now your name is no longer a memory. It's a warning etched in thunder. It rolls through their walls. It cracks through their stained glass lies. It lingers in the air like a storm that never passed. They used to laugh when you fell. Now they whisper when you breathe. They prayed for peace. You brought the storm because peace was never yours to offer. Only silence, and silence only after obedience. You turn their prayers into panic, their gods into shadows, their faith into fear. Now when they speak of power, They speak of you in whispers. You don't need a throne. You are the weight that crushes one. You don't wear a crown. You are the reason they lower theirs. They laughed at your fall. They tremble at your rise. They mocked your silence. Now they beg to survive the echo. What god do they pray to when the god they mocked now stands before them? Why do they kneel now when they used to point? Is it guilt? Is it fear? Or is it that terrifying moment when a sheep realizes the shadow behind it doesn't belong to a shepherd, but to a lion? You didn't seek revenge. You became it. You didn't ask for power. You became power. Not through pity, through presence. You arrived. They shattered. You spoke. They obeyed. No one sees the grave you climbed from, but they feel its weight in every step you take. No one remembers the boy they laughed at, only the shadow that now silences their rooms with nothing but your arrival. And still, they pray, but not to win, to be spared. Because legacy isn't made in light. It's carved into stone by hands once broken and voices once ignored. Let them pray, let them kneel, let them whisper your name like scripture, because now you are the ending to every story they thought they were writing. You were never meant to be remembered. You were meant to be erased, forgotten like dust on a windowsill, dismissed like noise before the song. But history, it doesn't forget storms. It carves them into stone. They once wrote your name in mockery. Now they carve it in stone, fearing the day it breathes again. You were the cautionary tale. Now you're the blueprint for domination. They said you'd never matter. Now they build their walls higher, hoping your shadow won't reach. But shadows don't climb, they consume. You were the ghost behind the curtain, the crack in the foundation. You didn't rise to inspire. You rose to haunt. Every king sits uneasy now. Every throne feels colder, because somewhere in the silence they hear it. Your footsteps approaching. They studied legends like Caesar, spoke of Achilles, feared Genghis, but none of them wore your scars. None of them were born from the betrayal of the living. You weren't crowned, you crawled, and that's what makes your story eternal. They lit fires to destroy you. Instead they lit the forge, and now your name, it doesn't echo, it commands. It's whispered in war rooms, it's etched into vaults, it's locked behind tongues afraid to speak it wrong. You are no longer a man, you are myth, you are legacy, you are the thunder they tried to silence, now shaking the bones of generations to come. Because empires fall, bloodlines fade, statues crumble, but the name carved in pain, the name born in fire, that name becomes scripture. So let them whisper, let them tremble, let them kneel before echoes they can't erase. Because long after they vanish, long after the world forgets their crowns, your name will remain etched in stone and fear.